My grandma lived until she was 101. And before she died, guess who was calling who? He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. So my parents were unsaved, but my mother had grown up in Pentecost. In fact, Grandma told me she had been carried out of meetings in other tongues. That was just even difficult for me to imagine. But by the time she was a teenager, she felt that my grandparents were too legalistic, and she backslid and started dating my father, who was a very good man, a very moral man, but unsaved. And they ran off and got married, and their compromise was to not go to church anywhere. But Grandma and Grandpa said, we aren't going to have total heathen grandchildren, and asked my parents if they could stop and pick me and my little brother up for church every time the doors were open. So from the time I was a baby, they took me to church. And I was there for every service, Wednesday night, Friday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, and so hungry for the things of God from the time I could talk. I asked to go home with Grandma and Grandpa on the weekends, and I would keep them up because they got to go to William Branham's meetings, Jack Coe's meetings, A.A. Allen's meetings. They listened to Oral Roberts all the time on the radio, and they would tell me about the miracles they had witnessed. And I had the stories memorized, but I pretended like I didn't because I wanted to hear them over and over and over again. Grandma and Grandpa, tell me again about the blind man that jumped off, was able to see, and the paralyzed man who jumped off the cot, and you saw him run around the building. Tell me those stories. Honey, we've told you so many times, you got to go to sleep now. You have school in the morning. Your parents are never going to let you come with us again. But you know what? The hunger that was cultivated in me as a little girl paid off. My grandma lived until she was 101. And before she died, guess who was calling who? And she would say to me, tell me again about the blind eyes that came open tonight. Tell me again about the paralyzed person that went running around the building. And now we have even got to see somebody who was dead raised from the dead. And she'd say, tell me about that again. Hallelujah.